Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Ross, and I am the MC of Timber Construct, Australia's largest timber construction conference. And today I'm very much happy to be joined by Jared Revay, the Director of Manufacturing from Timberlab, one of the world's largest and most innovative mass timber construction fabricators. Jared, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Nice to be here with you.
Fantastic. So, Jared, how did you get into mass timber manufacturing?
How I got into mass timber manufacturing really followed my journey with Swinnerton and Timberlab of, getting into the Portland Airport project and designing that, going through the design phase of that and all of the upfront modeling and figuring that we had to do to be able to develop this, eccentric roof that was full of organic shapes. And in that process, it was almost like getting a PhD in mass timber and mass timber manufacturing, because I learned every aspect that you could learn about mass timber, and it was like a condensed version. So I find myself very lucky to have had that opportunity and to work side by side with the greatest manufacturers in the state and in the country at the time to learn about how we can make this project come alive. And in that process, we really created our identity as Timberlab. Our teams excelled in delivering that project on the airport, and it really made a name for ourselves and allowed us to pick up a lot more key projects after that. And over the next couple of years, there'll be a number of key projects that will come online that everyone will get to have an opportunity to see. And we're excited to be able to share about those projects. And we're currently doing a number of projects that are under construction with some to be named private tech companies that will come online in the future. And we'll be excited to share about those, because a lot of what we learned on the airport project, especially as it related to the sourcing, transferred over into these future projects. And so, that coupled with my background in building semiconductor factories in Taiwan, it was kind of, right timing, right place. And my boss was looking for someone to take on the manufacturing department of the company that we were starting to create. And he looked at me and asked me to serve as our director of manufacturing. And I look back at him and say, "Hey, man, I've never manufactured anything." And he confidently looked back to me and said, "Look, you've spent the most time with manufacturers. You've built manufacturing facilities. You've helped build our teams and our company." And he put his trust in me to take that first step of getting our company into manufacturing. And it's not just me. I've got a great team beside me and behind me that's really supporting our growth into the manufacturing industry. And since then, we've acquired one of the long-standing glulam manufacturers in the state of Oregon, American Laminators, and they're a fantastic business. They're a group of great folks who have decades of experience in manufacturing, and so they're teaching us also how much we're learning. But during the project at the airport, worked very closely with a company called Zippo Laminators. They're a local manufacturer in Eugene, and they created all of the glulam beams for the project, as well as Ferreras, who creates the mass ply panels. It's like the plywood on steroids. And we also worked with a lot of sourcing consultants and sustainability consultants and forestry consultants to learn about the sourcing side of mass timber and timber in general, so that we can help be a voice in the market for sustainable forestry and fire resiliency, and how that all plays into this market.
Yes.
So it's the start of a journey.
So you mentioned the airport project before. So that is the Portland International Airport, the PDX, America's favorite airport, I understand. One of the things I've been very much interested in is the forest to frame philosophy that you've adopted, or the project teams actually adopted on that project. Can you briefly touch on that forest to frame philosophy?
Yeah, so the idea behind that was a very unique one that I had, as a contractor, I'm used to buying my materials, building the building, and figuring out the design along the way. But the Port of Portland decided that, they wanted to take this a step further. They wanted to direct their investment into the economies that they wanted to invest in. And so doing so by identifying forests of origins and different communities that they wanted that investment to go towards. So what that means is creating a spec that no one's ever seen before of, we want to get wood from, from the easiest level would be go get some FSC wood. That's kind of the easy part. But from there, it's go get wood from tribally sourced forests, or go get wood from small family farms that have proven sustainable forest management programs. And so in that process, working with forestry consultants, namely Sustainable Northwest, who has been an integral part because they know a lot of the forest network throughout Oregon and Washington. And so their goal is to bring these smaller types of forests to the commercial market, right? Most commercial market is a lot of these industrialized forests, which are great. We need that in the market, but it kind of creates a lot of competition that a lot of these smaller mills and a lot of these smaller forests can't compete with, and they can't get in the market. And the airport was willing to put their money where their mouth was and invest a little bit more because they knew where the money was going and they knew the change that was happening because of that investment. And that changed my thinking totally because, you never really thought about the guy cutting down the tree or his family or how the policies around forestry impacts those people and those communities and their families. And to be a part of something that stands up for those people and those communities and those values so that they can thrive as well, because there's been a lot of devastation through a lot of the policies that have been created over the previous decades that inhibited a lot of forests from being forested, especially federal forests. U.S. government basically say you can't touch any of the forests since the 90s, and they've just been growing thick, like a thick head of hair. And you can imagine what a thick head of hair looks like after 30 years and no haircut. So it's kind of like that, and we see massive amounts of fires happening now in the Northwest, and it's starting to impact a lot of the rest of the United States because the ashes get blown to the Midwest, and it's creating health conditions and health problems. And it's going as bad as seeing policies change with construction companies that now there's PM 2.5 policies related to pollution in the air and what you're allowed to work in when the pollution's too bad or not too bad, and what you got to do if it's too bad. So it's like you never seen those policies in construction before, and now we're starting to see that level of policy being rolled out. So it's kind of changed the game now for mass timber, and you're starting to see a lot of projects following suit with what the port did, especially large corporate projects, large tech projects that have a voice and that can share that kind of philosophy of being able to tell where their wood came from and how it impacted the communities that it came from, and celebrating the lives of the people along the way, not just the foresters, but the loggers, the mills, the trucking companies, and then eventually the manufacturers, the fabricators, and the installers, which amazingly enough, you can create within a 200-mile radius up here in the Pacific Northwest. So to be able to do these jobs and source and manufacture and fabricate and install with people and product all within a 200-mile radius is a pretty amazing feat. And there's a lot of timber baskets in the U.S. and that can be done in a lot of places. Yeah, there are some deserts and places there aren't timber baskets, but there are efficient modes of transportation to get those products down there. And I think the port really made a big splash in that way of saying, let's do something different. Let's put our money somewhere where it matters, and let's put our money into something that matters, that's going to be an example to our communities, our state, our country, and the rest of the world of how you can do something sustainably, and not only sustainably, but support the economies that would otherwise suffer in this kind of market.
Absolutely. So I think it's what's a 390,000 feet roof at the
Yeah,
Port of Portland.
390,000 plus. It's about 9 acres. So if you think 9 acres, and it's sitting on 34 columns. So if you can picture 9 acres sitting on 34 columns, it's also an engineering feat of, you know, how KPFF, the engineers, figured out how to make this building stand up the way it does and modularize it. It's crazy.
How on earth could they get the beams across to the airport? It's incredible. Was it a logistics undertaking?
It was a logistics undertaking, and my company, we're the mass timber trade partner. We weren't actually the general contractor. The general contractor is Hoffman Skanska. It was a joint venture between two other large general contractors, and they really coordinated the move. And we were just a major support team on the wood side to ensure the wood can make the move. And we were there along the way, making little adjustments and tweaking things as it moved. But as if you can picture a remote control car picking up a piece of board and just driving over, it was literally that. It was it's called an SPMT, a self-propelled modular transport, and it's a company called Mammoet, who moves giant pieces of engineered wonders all over the world. And they do these things. I mean, they move refineries and they move bridges, and you know, they did a big bridge in Hong Kong, and you can YouTube a lot of the videos of what they do, and it's pretty amazing what they do. And they actually said that they could have moved the whole entire roof as one if the site in the airport could accommodate that kind of launch, but the airport said no, this airport has to stay online 100% of the time.
Yeah.
It has to operate 100% of the time, no impact to the airport. And so the roof was that 9 acres was split up into 20 pieces that were about, you know, the size of half a football field or so, and picked up and moved over, and it drives at about a human's walking pace.
You know, Jared, it's interesting because there's been a few airport projects that have adopted, I guess, hybrid mass timber structures, and it's almost is it a popular construction model now or system for light industrial, large scale building projects as well as, I guess, commercial towers as well?
Starting to pick up steam, and the advantage with the airport is because of it being modularized, prefabricated and modularized, pulled apart and then brought back together again. You get a high degree of accurate tolerances with wood. Whereas steel can grow and shrink quite a bit with the differential in temperatures. With wood is quite stable in that regard, and so that was one of the aspects that really helped create a lighter roof and a roof that could be stable in tolerance, so that when you pull it apart, it could come back together in a very tight tolerance fashion without things growing or shrinking on themselves. This was a hybrid roof. There are steel girders that are the backbone of the roof. The steel girders are every 100 foot on center with 80-foot beams in between them. And those steel girders are what sit on top of the 34 Y columns that support it throughout the 9 acres. And we're starting to see that more in industrial applications, not only for the tolerances and the look of wood. The look of wood is also an attractive part for owners and architects, but it's also the idea that wood could be used as a carbon sink and that it's storing carbon. And so there's this idea that, you know, we could build these prefabricated wood buildings, and one day they can be disassembled, and that wood can be used for something else. And wood lasts for, I mean, wood can last for centuries if you take care of it right. And so it all comes down to a smart design and smart maintenance, and you can have a really wonderful product that can be using this type of material.
So it's a real plug and play approach, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a plug and play, sustainability, optics, you know, how it looks for the project, and it's just a beautiful product.
So I guess because of that, if the airport wanted to, for example, expand a wing or change its lounge system or something like that, it's a really good system to allow that growth and contraction, isn't it, within the airport itself?
I think if they wanted to scab onto that in the future, they could find a way to do that. And I think they'd be more concerned with the land problem in their growth. But their eyes next are going to be, this was a terminal expansion.
Yeah.
So it was the main terminal that got expanded. Now they're going to be looking at the gates and how they can grow their gates off of that terminal. So there's definitely ways that, you can bring wood into those elements in the same kind of approach of this prefabricated and pre-modularized system that can come and be brought up to the airport.
Look, Jared, I understand it didn't actually happen, but I think for a time the US government was looking to set up a mass timber housing company on the site of the airport as well, weren't they?
Yeah, that's one of the port properties. So the airport owns a lot of industrial properties in and around Portland and the greater area. And there's some terminals off the water, and they're creating a mass timber hub there, and they're actually still moving forward with the hub.
Oh,
and they're trying to invite companies to come there and create different kinds of businesses. There's going to be some acoustic labs there and some other kind of research labs. But there is a company out there that's looking to break the code around affordable housing as it relates to using mass timber. And it's a journey. You can't go make everything 100% mass timber. You need to study systems and understand where hybrid makes sense, because it does come down to cost at the end of the day and what makes sense. And so they're starting to learn that as more contractors come online and more data is available as it relates to cost. And as more contractors get used to using this product, we'll start to see more competition and more pricing start to come down in this market. And that's really been the resistance in the project in that type of product to date, is just not a lot of people have had experience using it. So they price a lot of risk in it. And as Timberlab, we've gotten a lot of experience, we've gotten our scars, and so we're learning to become more competitive, sharpen our pencil, and work with partners across the United States. We work with different general contractors, we work with different manufacturers, we even work with other fabricators besides ourselves. I mean, we all have to help each other right now in this market. It's a small market. We're only a few percent of the total market share of construction, and we have to support each other in this market right now. So a lot of us call it co-opetition. It's not really competition, and we all call each other and talk to each other. I talk to a lot of the manufacturers. My boss talks to a lot of the manufacturers, and we're all figuring out ways to help each other, help this market, and help other developers and architects and engineers figure out how to crack their design to make mass timber work. And that's really the approach, is to start it from the beginning, not take a building that's been designed in steel or concrete and say, hey, go price this in wood. It doesn't work like that. And that's where a lot of inaccurate pricing models have come for mass timber. But that's not to say that mass timber is the solution for everything. I think there's a time when you can go 100% mass timber, and there's a time when you have to look at a project that, a hybrid system best makes sense for this, where maybe you got to incorporate some concrete or maybe a little steel or maybe even some masonry, and figure out how that best fits together.
Well, believe it still, like, for example, with the Portland Airport project, it's not a purely timber structure, is it? It's involved in a hybrid. Like the building is a hybrid building as well. So I think one of the key points for us looking at for Timber Construct August 12 and 13, and I understand that you're going to join us remotely, and we'll touch on that in a minute, is actually that there is no real pure mass timber only solution. You've got to work the material fit for purpose around the project at hand, and it's how the materials work together. So Timber Construct, our conference in Melbourne, Australia, August 12 and 13. So, Jared, I understand you'll be joining us in Melbourne, Australia on August 12 and 13, albeit remotely. So if you could briefly touch on that as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to joining. I really wanted to fly out there this year. It would have been an awesome opportunity to come to Australia and speak about this in person. And I'm going to dive into more of the details around the engineering and the hybridization of this roof and how that worked But unfortunately, I wasn't able to come out there because the grand opening for the housewarming of all the individuals involved with the project, the port is throwing a big housewarming and invited everybody before it actually opens to the public the following 2 days to come have a grand opening party there. And so the party starts at 5:30 p.m. US time till 8:30 p.m. And the first hour of it, I'm actually going to be presenting at the conference during that time, and I'll be stationed at the port office so that I can quickly get over to the port party after the presentation. So it was kind of a unique opportunity to be presenting to a large audience about this amazing project, and then going to celebrate this amazing project with all the individuals who put their efforts and their sweat and blood into this project, and celebrate what we've been working on for the last, for me, it's been for the last 5 years. For some, it's been 10 years on the port side and the architect side. They've been thinking about this for the last 10 years. And it's not over. There's another phase, which will be completed next year, and that'll complete the entire roof. About 75% of the roof will be opened up this year, and next year it'll be 100% open. So looking forward to maybe come back next year and talk a little bit more about the completion of this project, as well as a lot of the confidential projects we're working on at the moment, but we expect to be public projects once they're complete.
So we'll have a scoop for Timber Construct attendees. We'll actually get the first glimpse potentially at the most important mass timber project in the world.
Yeah, I hope so. It would be really cool if I could do it from inside the actual terminal with the wood above me. I got to work with the port and see if they can accommodate something like that. Otherwise, I'll be in one of their offices off to the side. Maybe I can sneak out for a minute during the presentation. But it's pretty exciting to have both of these things happening on the same day, and appreciate the opportunity to share about it once again with everybody out there in Australia.
So, Jared, I'd like to touch a bit on a couple of the other projects that you're involved as well. I understand there is a significant project on the Mississippi River that you delivered last year.
Yeah, last year we delivered a project called Tom Lee Park, and it's actually, sorry, it's on the Mississippi. It's on in Memphis, Tennessee, and I guess that is off the Mississippi, right? Life on the River, yeah. And it's a, how can you explain it? It's like an outdoor community park canopy, which is comprised of massive glulam beams from southern yellow pine. It was really about celebrating southern yellow pine, which is the timber basket of the South, and bringing that product to life for the community to take part in. And it was really an opportunity for that city to give something back, to commemorate Tom Lee, which is a significant figure in their history out there. And it was a challenging project because it had, massive glulams with these knife plates that were really challenging to fabricate and fit together. And we just learned a lot through that project. And we're going on to about our third or fourth outdoor community project like this. And, it keeps growing. There's a lot of interest around this for these types of projects. We're about to do one in Greenville, South Carolina, which is where we just opened our facility, our second fabrication facility. And it'll be the first one that we deliver as the installer and the supplier. So we're really looking forward to that project.
And of course, southern yellow pine is very similar to radiata pine in Australia as well. So a number of our presenters and exhibitors actually use radiata pine, which is a very similar solution to the southern yellow pine. So with Timberlab, you've got factories or fabrication facilities in Oregon. I understand you've just opened one up in the American South as well. Is that correct?
In Greenville, South Carolina, we opened our doors in January 2023. And from the moment we opened our doors, we were jamming. We barely got our CNCs up in time to start with a project we had won 6 months prior to that. And the product was coming, and we had to get our CNCs online, get our permits signed off, and be able to hit the road running. And it's been really exciting to be able to get that facility up. That was our second facility. We just finished a mass timber office inside of it. That's a demonstration piece actually made of 3 different species. So there's a quadrant that's southern yellow pine, there's another quadrant that's spruce, and then there's another quadrant that is Douglas fir. And so it really gives an opportunity for visitors to come see what can be done with mass timber, but also what can be done with different species.
Is the American South a growth market for Timberlab and mass timber in general?
We see it that way. We've invested in our office out there. We started with about 3 or 4 people in Greenville, South Carolina, and our office is now, I'd say we're up to about 12 office folks between timber engineers and project managers and our director of pre-construction who's out there. And we got a few other that are going out this row, 12 to 15. And then our craft, we've got anywhere from 15 to 20, depending on the project sizes going through there. But we're about 30 people in total at that facility and looking to grow. We're looking to continue with more shifts there. And, we're always looking for the next opportunity. So you never know, maybe one day we might be manufacturing out that way or opening another facility, but we're just always looking for the next opportunity to expand mass timber and to, make this a mainstream construction material used in, the commercial market and the market in general throughout the United States.
And you've just acquired American Laminators as well, haven't you? As another as well. Can you briefly touch on that as well?
Yeah, American Laminators is a long-standing manufacturer in the state of Oregon. They've been around, probably one of the oldest manufacturers in the US. I don't know if they're the oldest, but in Oregon, they're probably the oldest. And they've got 2 locations, one in Drain, Oregon, and one in Swiss Home, Oregon. The longest beam that they can make is 135 feet long. And they are teaching us everything we can learn about manufacturing that we don't already know. Or our teams are spending our days down there learning from their folks. They're all passionate. There's a great cultural alignment, and they're happy to see folks like us that are excited about mass timber that want to reinvigorate their business and bring them into the next, the mass timber 2.0, and take them on a journey with us and work together as a team. So we think we're very lucky to have met all the people there. They've all got, from the young people there, maybe a few years to 5 years, but most of the people there, the management, the leadership, they've all been there 15 to 25, upwards of almost 30 years. And so there's just a wealth of knowledge, a community of vendors that they've worked with for a long time. So we consider ourselves very lucky to have stumbled across this opportunity and to joined our forces with them. And we all look forward to see where this opportunity takes us. And we're actually building a CLT factory next in Oregon, and we're going to be manufacturing all of our glue lam to create that structure for that facility out of the American Laminators facility. So there'll be a great story associated with that as well.
We'll have another scoop for Timber Construct. So, Jared, thank you for joining us today. Just as a wrap up for our conversation today, do you have any experience you'd like to share with our Australian audience around developing mass timber in the American market that potentially some of our audience could take in the Australian context as well?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm still learning in this market. I've only been doing mass timber now for about 6 years, and what I think I could share, and it's something that resonates within Timberlab in itself, is don't think there's a dumb question out there, and start to get creative with the way you look at things, because as a group of individuals with so many different backgrounds at Timberlab, not many of us came from timber backgrounds or engineering backgrounds per se, but we were given the space to ask questions that most people might feel uncomfortable asking because they might feel stupid or something asking. And so I'd say just dive in and be open to ask questions and explore new ideas. And for the governments and the large entities and the large companies to take a chance and to try something different and be bold and do something that's going to make a statement for your country and your business. And I think that's really where the start of something can happen that you see like with the airport.
Jared, thank you very much for your time. For everyone who wants to hear more about Jared, please register for Timber Construct, Australia's largest timber construction conference, which will be held in Melbourne, August 12 and 13. We can't wait to see you there. Thanks again. Bye.